A little bit about myself. Mark and I actually met through an amazing networking thing like this. And what I found fascinating about what Mark does in your community here is we were just talking about all the wealth of resources in the greater Philadelphia area. And what I do specifically is I'm an advisor with Culture Index, which is a company that uses behavioral analytics to basically improve your workplace, hire the right people, make sure you have the right leaders, and then teach and train your leaders how to be better with their people, how to get more ROI out of your payroll. So if you're not familiar, behavioral analytics is essentially like math and psychology had a baby. And I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of personality profiling systems out there. I personally used Culture Index as a business owner, so I have a great affinity for it. I understand very deeply how it works, and it does work. And so when I tell people what I do, I say I'm a people strategist. That is the thing that lights me up and gets me out of bed every day, and I absolutely adore what I do. My goal today is to give you one actionable takeaway specific to you. So if you had a chance to take the survey before this meeting, awesome. I sent it back to you. I printed out, I think everyone's that came in right up to the wire here. And if you didn't, feel free to still take it. I won't be able to get you your results, obviously, while I'm speaking, but I'll make sure to send them over afterwards. You can guess if you didn't get a chance to. I also would like this to be pretty interactive, so I'm going to ask you some questions. I find that to be the best way to do these webinars and to see where your head's at and see how you're doing it. Although, Mark, you did say hold questions till the end, so is it okay if I make it a little interactive?
Absolutely. It's your meeting.
Okay, all right, great. Is it okay with everybody else if I make it a little interactive? That's
Perfect.
okay, great. Let me also bring up your faces here. So I see I've got about 8 of us on camera. The rest of you, I assume, are driving or whatnot, but feel free to turn your cameras on if you want. I can see your faces. That makes me happy. Okay. A little bit about me. I've heard that people won't listen to you until they feel that they can know and trust you. So I'm going to hopefully give you some information that makes you willing to trust me. My background is I went to school for mechanical engineering on a military scholarship. I got commissioned in the U.S. Navy and I was stationed on the USS George Washington. That's actually the Teddy Roosevelt. Sorry, I realized it afterwards. I put the wrong aircraft carrier in. Bad faux pas. But I was on the GW for my last 2 years of service. I served for 4 years. And the thing that the military taught me is that leadership is a learned skill. So they can think about this. It's an organization that is run 95% of like 18-year-old boys. Okay. If you can't, if you can't figure out how to train your leaders, you're not going to get anything done, because I'm sure some of you have intimate experience with 18-year-old boys and they're a tough crew to wrangle, right? So the military very much teaches you that leadership is learned, that we all have gifts that we bring to the table. And you start by recognizing what your gift is, and then you work on filling out the rest of it. After my time in the military, I went to become a mechanical engineer for a company called Noresco. This picture in the middle is a boiler plant, which I spent many, many hours in boiler plants and chiller plants and steam places and in control rooms, because for 7 years I did energy efficiency work. And what I learned from my time there was that really how to dig into data, to leverage data to make smart decisions. We would go into these huge federal facilities that were spending millions of dollars a year on their utilities, and by making a couple tweaks, we could save them $1 million or a couple $100,000 every year. And so I feel like when I look at my path to Culture Index, that was a foundational moment of saying, hey, we can leverage data to make some efficiency tweaks with our people in order to get more ROI out of our payroll and to free up money to do other projects. Then the final picture, when my 3rd daughter was born, I decided I wanted to be closer to home. I was traveling all the time. I live out in Chester Springs, and I decided, why not flip a house? In my work as energy efficiency, I was doing commercial project management. I mean, these just massive, massive projects, running teams of 80 to 100 people across many states. So I thought, wrangling a couple contractors to flip a house in my backyard can't be that hard. Well, anybody who has ever dealt with a house contractor knows it's just a different level of quality of experience. But I did that really well. I flipped over 60 houses. I was a retail real estate agent. I did over 120 other transactions. So to do that, I had to build a team, and that's where I brought Culture Index into the picture. Because I was like, the Navy has taught me how to be a leader, that we need to train our people and we need to pour into them and we need to invest. Being a mechanical engineer taught me that we can leverage data to be more efficient and make better decisions. And then running my own team made me realize that people are hard, right? And when I discovered Culture Index and found out that you could take data and learn about people and then use that data to be better with people, I was all in. So that's what I'm going to teach you a little bit about today. Today, we are going to talk about, I've got about 45 minutes here. So we're going to spend some time talking about what the 3 main motivations are in people. And we're going to talk about how these can be gifts to any, regardless of what your motivation is. There is no one right motivation. And I have seen it. There's one particular one that seems to think that they're better than all the rest, and that's not true. All 3 of them can build very successful businesses. And so I'm going to show you some examples of that. We're going to talk about what your motivation is and how you can leverage that to be better in your relationships. And then we're going to spend some time thinking about the people on your team and maybe that you're having some conflict with, or that you feel like there's some friction. And we're going to see if we can diagnose a little bit maybe what their motivation is and how you can leave this meeting and have a better conversation with them. Does that sound good? We can get on board with that? Okay, great. So anybody who's in sales, Mark knows for sure, right? How much time should you be talking when you're in a sales call?
Less than 50%.
Less than 50%. The other person who is talking should be the one that is, the person who's communicating feels like they're connecting with you. So in sales, especially, we want to build that connection. But I would say that every time as a leader, you go into a meeting, you are selling and persuading people to come to work, to do the best job, and to do what you want them to do in the simplest forms. And so for you as a leader to have a communication breakthrough, you are able to communicate effectively, and you need to speak what they need to hear, not just what you want to say. I just want you to think about the last 5 meetings that you've had with people. Who was talking the most? You or the other people? I don't need you to participate in this. I just want you to think about this for a minute. Right? And as leaders, I mean, yeah, all right, you gave yourself up. Thank you. I appreciate that, Seth. As leaders, there's a reason why that happens, right? We have limited time. We're trying to jam 1,000 things in. We want to make sure we get to our beacon meeting. But really, we need to come into the meetings and we need to listen and understand where the other people are coming from. And here's why. Here's why you should care about this. Let's say that you're a company and you spend $1 million on your leadership team. That's probably about 5 people, right? Give or take, maybe 5, 6 people, depending on your industry. So you have a weekly meeting with your leadership team. Now, there are 3 main motivational methods. They're split up roughly in accordance with the population. So that means that you have one motivational method and 2/3 of the room has another one. They receive information differently than you do. But what happens to us as people is we come in and we think that people receive, they see the world the way that we see it, they're motivated the same way that we are, and they want to be talked to the same way that we do. So you come into your leadership meeting, you talk to 1/3 of the room exactly how you need to, and they get it, and they leave that meeting and they are fired up. $600,000 of payroll in that room has to leave that meeting and then spend an hour elsewhere getting motivated to do whatever work you just put on their shoulders because you didn't give them that. So that's 1/40th of their week. That's 2.5%. So if you do this every single week, you come into this leadership meeting and they have to spend an hour afterwards figuring out how to get motivated and get what they need to get things done. That's $25,000 a year. Now I want you to think about the fact that that leadership team of 1 million people is probably going out, and let's say that they're managing $10 million of payroll. 2.5% is $250,000 of a $10 million payroll. So now that's one meeting where you as a leader came in, communicated to only 1/3 of your staff really well. And then there was a trickle down effect that the remaining team had to spend other time getting the knowledge that they needed and getting communicated with how they needed to be communicated with. That's $275,000 if you do that once a week, just from 1 hour. Now, that's kind of a hyperbolic story, right? I'm using this example because I really want you to understand the impact of you showing up to a meeting and not being intentional about how you're going to communicate to your team the most effective way. And I'm not just going to throw you all under the bus, although Seth, I do appreciate you stepping up there. Well, I'm going to go forward one slide. This is Bethany. Bethany has been my administrative assistant for 6 years. She has been with me she's had 3 different roles while working with me. She's amazing. And there are 3 main motivational traits. So I just want you to hold this picture of Bethany in your head. This is us a couple weeks ago at an annual planning session. Here's the 3 main motivations. And I'm going to call them sharks, sunshine, and shepherds. Sharks want, at the end of the day, control of their destiny. They want to be in charge of the vision and the strategy. Sunshine people, they want strong relationships. That is what drives them at their core. So for them, they are looking for social collateral. They usually bring incredible optimism, culture, and persuasiveness to an organization. Then the shepherds are seeking knowledge and perfection. They want details. They want to conform to the rules. They want to know what the rules are. They bring quality work. They do what they say they're going to do all the time, and they think about what needs to get done today. So you got your sharks. They're thinking about my future. It's more of a me-centered approach to life, right? I have my goals that I want to hit. How does this help me hit them? And they live in the future. When they talk and when they think, it's in the future. You've got your sunshine people who they come in and they lead by inspiring other people. And they generally surround themselves with phenomenal subject matter experts because they know that they're not the expert, but they know that they have a great vision and they want to build an amazing team. And then we have our shepherds, the knowledge and perfection, and they build exceptional technical companies generally. So going back to Bethany, and to this example of wasted time, I actually reached out to her when I was putting together this presentation last year. And I said, Bethany, we have a good relationship, right? I said, please tell me about a time. By the way, my motivational method is more on the shark side. I'm a friendly shark, but I really live in the future. I'm all about vision, strategy, growth. Where are we going? I very rarely think about what needs to happen today. Bethany is a shepherd. She makes sure that when I say we're going to do something, it actually gets done. And so I said to her, one day I came in, I was leading a team of 3 people were in this room. And I had this big future vision of what this program we were building, which is mastermind similar to this for business entrepreneurs in the real estate space. I had this huge idea that if we could launch these accountability groups and if we could have our staff in the room with them, we could be, number one, collecting data on our members to find out what they really need and getting it to them in real time. And number 2, we could help them achieve their goals, which is why you join a group like this, right? Is because you have goals and you want to achieve them and you know you need help. So I was like, came into this meeting and I said, guess what, guys? I have this amazing idea. We're going to upgrade our accountability groups. You are going to sit in on all the meetings. That way you can collect all the data. When somebody has a question, you can just call, you can connect them to somebody else. It's going to be so amazing. They panicked, right? I didn't even realize this. I was so in my own head about how amazing this shiny new idea was that I had and I was just thinking in the future of all the data we could collect, all the connections we could make, all the people that if we could get them to their goals faster, they would go rave about us to their friends and insist that they join this group, right? I mean, my head was so far in the future. And I said, it's just, this is what sharks do when they come into a meeting. It's just a little thing. It's simple. It's not a big deal. She said, you said in that meeting, this will be simple. It's just going to take 10 hours of your week. You'll still have 30 hours to do the rest of your job. This is me. Come in, 1 hour meeting, and I wreck their world. They're all shepherds, the 3 shepherds in the room who I count on to get stuff done. They start panicking because I have not given them any clarity on exactly how this is going to happen. All I've done is paint this picture for the future of why we should do this, but I haven't given them any tactical details of today, how they're going to execute on it. And then I fly out and I go to another meeting. And it wasn't until our next meeting, which was, we followed EOS. So we get an L10 a week later. Our next meeting, they came in and it was on the issues list from each one of them. And they said, we talked so much last week about this accountability thing. There was all this like fear and uncertainty and stress among them. And I asked her, I said, how much time do you think you spent? And she's like, probably a good 20 hours that week. At $150,000 of payroll, that was $1,500 over 1 week that I cost in employee productivity, that I cost my team in employee productivity. Does that resonate with you? Have you ever done that? I mean, if you feel confident raising your hand to say, maybe I've done that to my team once or twice. Yeah. Whew. I'm stressed out for her just recounting that story because I had no idea that I had done this to my team until the next week. Okay. So what I want you to do right now, actually, before we go into this, if you have your survey, raise your hand if you have your survey. Okay. Michael, I'm not sure if you do.
No, I sent it in, but I don't see it in my email.
Okay, let me see if I've got it here. I'm sorry, I don't. Oh, I do. Okay. Your survey is not so different from mine. Let me just make sure. So if you can see this, how do I make it show up? You're going to see a red line. There we go. And then you're going to see at the top, on the top graph, you're going to see a red line. You're going to see 4 dots, red, yellow, blue, and green. These track, the red tracks to sharks, the yellow tracks to sunshine, and the green tracks to shepherds. Whatever trait you have that is the farthest to the right of the red line is your main motivational trait. So Michael, yours is red. We'll put you in the shark category. I'll just go through this, right? Here's who I've got here. Mike Brenner, yours is actually green, although above all, you're going to seek harmony if you're here. Ricky Hunter, yours is green, even though your red and your green are stacked, and I'll tell you why. So that's the shepherd. Sorry about that. Joseph Hare, you're a shepherd. Neil Perry, you're a shepherd. Got a lot of shepherds here. Curtis Meckel, you're a shepherd. Seth, you are sunshine. Is anybody surprised by that? Is he optimistic and persuasive and outgoing and good at building relationships? Right? Darshan, you also are a shepherd. I'm sorry, you also are sunshine. John Hadley, you are a shepherd. Zoe, you are a shepherd. Linda, you are sunshine. Leslie, you are sunshine. Drew, you are a shark. Wendy, you are a shepherd. Bill, you are a shark. Stephen, you are a shepherd. And Barb, you are sunshine. If I didn't get you, I'm sorry. Those are all the surveys that I had. I'm so a sunshine. Barb still, yes. And so if you didn't have it, I just want you to think a little bit as we go through the next slides about what resonates with you, right? And you can still take the survey and I will happily share your results with you. All right, Elon Musk. He is a shark. Anyone disagree with this? Here's the qualifications. Strategy, vision, spends his time completely in the future, more of a me first approach to life. Like I want to hit my goals. And if your goals align with my goals, great, we can build a team, but I have goals that I want to accomplish. And sharks love big challenges that they don't know the solution to. Michael, I see you shaking your head. Do you agree?
My wife has told me on many occasions that I am happiest when I am doing something that is incredibly hard and I have no idea how to do.
Yes. Now, some of my shepherds on the call are saying, I love a good challenge. And you do. But did you hear the last part of what he said? And I have no idea how I'm going to do it. That's the difference. So Elon Musk, kind of classic here. I pulled up some classic quotes, right? If the future does not include being out there among the stars and being a multi-planet species, I find that incredibly depressing. Everything about this quote screams, I live in the future. I have no idea how we're going to get from here to there, but through sheer force of will, I am going to do my best to make it happen. All my sharks in the room, does that resonate with you? Got a thumbs up. Mark, you're on the shark side. Yep. All right. Now, can we agree that Elon has built some very successful companies? His leadership style might not be your leadership style, but he has leveraged his gifts and his skills to build some successful companies. Now, he's also suffered some massive losses, which is the downside of the shark personality. It's like sometimes that ego and that hubris is a little misplaced, but they go to bat enough times that eventually it works. Okay. All right. Next one. Anybody know who this guy is?
Bob Iger.
Bob Iger. Can you tell us more about yes, Drew. I'm not sure how happy I am about being in Elon Musk's cohort. Well, listen, there's modifiers here, right? Like some of you, I said you're a shepherd and you're like when the red dot is stacked on the D, or in Michael's case, in my case, where the sunshine trait is also to the right of the line, we're friendly sharks. I don't think Elon Musk is a friendly shark. Just guessing. All right, Bob Iger. Mike, can you tell us a little bit about Bob Iger? What do you know about him?
Just that he's CEO of Walt Disney.
Mm-hmm. Bob Iger is the CEO of Walt Disney. He has, well, is he? He's back now, I think. I read his book last year. It was amazing. It's called Ride of a Lifetime, when he thought that he had stepped out of the CEO role, but he had to come back. Bob Iger is all about experience. If you talk to anyone associated with Disney, he has a fanatical following. I mean, people who don't even know him, they follow him and they adore him. He is exceptional for culture and experience. Show of hands, how many of you have been to Disney World? Do you know there's a trash can every 10 feet so that you don't have to, so that you won't litter, so the place remains an amazing experience for you? Also, some other fun Disney facts, they can't point with their fingers. They always have to point with two and not at people, because this can be seen as offensive and aggressive. Bob Iger has built a dynasty. I think 20 years that he was with Disney. And he left. He turned his company over to somebody who, if I had to guess, I would say they were more on either the shark or the shepherd side of things. And the company fell apart. And he had to step back in. So this is a perfect example of how sunshine people can build massive companies, but his company looks way different than Elon Musk's company, right? This is one quote from him. What I've really learned over time is that optimism is a very, very important part of leadership. I would say that not every leader feels that way, and not every leader needs to be optimistic to run a business. I personally know some sharks who are not very friendly, who, like, optimism is just not in their DNA, but they are really good at the strategy. And that's what makes them exceptional leaders. All right, next quiz. Anybody know who this is?
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett. Anybody want to tell me about Warren Buffett? Just in case somebody lives under a rock, doesn't know about who he is. Nobody? It's okay. Warren Buffett just celebrated his 90th or 3rd birthday, right? Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. Warren Buffett built Berkshire Hathaway, amazingly successful financial investment company, and then some, right? And then everything else. But his whole strategy is based on mitigating risk, which is what shepherds do exceptionally well. The way that they mitigate risk is they get knowledge and perfection, and they don't start something before they understand exactly what it's going to take to complete it. My shepherds in the room, does that resonate with you? Got one shaking head. I wish I could like put your put a little sign up. Maybe I'll get so sophisticated at Zoom that I can like assign you sharks and shepherds and sunshines. And then my sunshines, I didn't ask you, but did that Bob Iger story, did that resonate with you, building a company around just this amazing experience? Yeah, Seth, what do you do?
I'm a web designer, digital marketer, so
Oh,
it
you're all
kind of
about the
fits to be
experience.
sunshiny and happy.
Yeah,
So
excellent. All right, the reason I tell you these stories is because I want you to know that to become a good leader, you have to understand who you are. It starts with seeing yourself clearly and embracing it. Your gifts are and always have been the key to your success. And what I mean by this is just take a minute, think back on some of your biggest successes, and now put it in light of what you've learned about yourself, this shark, sunshine, or shepherd. And I want you to think about how your main motivational trait, your gift, your skill, helped you achieve that success. At Culture Index, we talk about people's inherent traits being how you're wired, being like writing with your dominant hand. So hand dominancy starts to be baked in around 5 to 6 years old. It starts to show up. And we believe that your inherent traits, psychologists believe that your inherent motivating traits start showing up around 12 years old. They become baked in. And your traits will drive your behaviors. Now, over time, our coping mechanisms mature. But if I want to get the most out of my people, I align their skills with the work that they're doing, right? So I say that it's like coming to work and writing with your dominant hand. I'm already programmed to do this. Seth's 11-year-old is a shark. Oh, we should have a conversation afterwards. That's going to be a hellacious few years. So if I ask you to come to work and write with your non-dominant hand, if you are naturally a shepherd and I tell you, hey, I want you to come just be so optimistic and persuasive and friendly. I want you to just build relationships all day long. That's not going to feel great. You're not going to wake up energized to do what you do. But if you can say, I'm a shepherd, I'm really good at knowledge, quality, execution, operations, delivering an amazing product. I'm going to do that. I'm going to focus on that. And I'm going to hire someone to be the sunshine and the persuasion and the glue inside my company. That's a much better way to wake up every day. Do you agree? Yeah. Okay. So, one more thing I want to say. Just because I've told you what your main motivational trait is, it's not a license for bad behavior. So, as a leader, you still need to, so on those traits that you got, some of them you'll see, this is a perfect example of where I see this show up. Mark, is it okay if I pick on you for a second?
Sure. Used to it.
Okay. So Mark, his profile, his green dot, the D dot, the last one in the top section, is to the left of that red line. That tells me that he is a nonconformist in his heart. Don't put him in a box. Give him freedom and flexibility to solve problems as he needs to solve them. Would you agree with that, Mark?
Yes.
Yep. So if I try to give Mark a 50-point sales process that he must follow every single step, because I'm a shepherd and I like conformity and I like processes, what do you think Mark's going to do?
Bored.
Bored. I don't want to do this. I'm going to skip a few
Frustrated.
steps, but not important. I'm going to make some value judgments about which of your steps is worth doing.
Not any good.
Not
I
very
can
good,
I can do it better.
right?
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll see people with the D to the left of the line. We call that a low D. They'll just say, I messed up all the details because I'm just not good at that. That's just not where I live. And like sometimes you have to do the details to get your work done, right? So it's not a license for bad behavior. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you being a subject.
I don't like details, but I know I've trained myself through the School of Hard Knocks to be very focused on the details, and it's painful, but I know it doesn't come natural. I guess that's the point. It does not come natural.
Right. Yeah, you have to work. That's like writing with your non-dominant hand, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's slower, it takes more mental effort, the quality's not as good, but you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Have to.
Okay. If you want to go far, go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I'm not sure if you guys have heard this quote before, but I absolutely adore it. And I think it's so true. And what I have seen in my business as an executive advisor to CEOs is there are natural breaking points in a business, which I'm sure you felt along the way. One of the first ones is going from one employee to some employees. Because up till that point, usually you've been a hard charger, you're building this business, you've got the idea, you're executing on it, you're fired up, and you're going fast. Then you bring on, let's say, an assistant. I see magic happen when visionaries bring on a really good assistant. And you bring on an assistant. I'm in the process of training my executive assistant right now, and it is frustrating because I have to slow down. And all the things that just come naturally to me, I now have to make a Loom video to train him on. So I'm slowing down, but I know that with his help, I can go much further. I can provide him with a product. We can serve more people, right? The other breaking points in a company that I have seen, specifically in smaller companies, are like the 10 to 25 range, where you have to start trusting a second leader in your company or a third leader in your company, right? So you hire your one person, your 2, 3, 4, 5, you're managing them okay, somewhere around 6 or 7 people. You realize that you're spending just way too much in the people weeds. And you think, I need another helper, I need a manager to help me. That can be a breaking point because now you have to entrust somebody else to help carry out your vision, whereas before you could clearly communicate your vision to every person. And then, but even at 10 people, you still really know what everybody's doing and what's going on. Then I see another breaking point around 20 to 25 people, where you have you're starting to build on a true leadership team. And maybe it's 2 people or 3 people, but you start not being able to know what their people are doing. And so then we start having more trust issues. And the root of these trust issues usually is communication. Now, Culture Index, we say we don't measure passion and we don't measure moral compass. So I can tell you, I can't tell you if somebody is going to lie, cheat, and steal, but I can tell you how they'll do it. So sometimes your trust is validly misplaced because of this lack of moral compass, but most of the time, the mistrust is just from communication issues. If you knew how to better communicate with your leaders, you would have more trust in what they're doing. It would free you up psychologically and mentally to do what you need to do, which is the higher level, bigger business problems, right? So what we're going to talk about now is how can you use this information to be better at communication and hopefully build more trust. Again, remember, my goal here is to get you one nugget that you leave this and you're like, yes, today I'm going to execute this one piece, right? Okay. How do you know what the people around you, what their communication style is? What is their motivation and how should you communicate with them? You're going to start by listening. We talked earlier about how in a good sales conversation, you're listening more than you're talking, right? I would say the same is true of most leadership conversations when you are truly trying to seek to understand them. And in order to do that, you can't roll in hot to the meeting and be 5 minutes late and have 1,000 other things crammed in. You have to start by giving them your full focus. And then you're going to start thinking about this. Here's what I want you to listen for. I want you to think about one person that you're having some struggles with right now. Maybe you can figure this out during this call. Maybe you're going to have to wait and figure it out afterwards, but here's what I want you to do. If they're a shark, they are going to talk a lot about the future, vision, strategy. It's going to show up in all aspects of their life. So if you ask them about vacations, they may tell you like, yeah, I've planned 10 vacations this year and 1 next year. What are your dream things? Where do you want to go in the future? If you just ask them that one question, it's 3 years from now. Things are going awesome. What does that look like for you? If they come back with really just big growth visionary ideas, they're a shark. That's their dominant thing. Sunshine, probably the easiest one to figure out. You just go into the meeting and say hi, and then don't say anything else. And they will fill the silence because sunshine people hate silence. Because if you're communicating, you're connecting, and they want to connect. Seth agrees vehemently. Seth, do you? Yes. Do you want to give them any other tips for sunshine people?
Just shut up. That's so hard to do. But I hate silence. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But it's so true. You got, 2 ears, 1 mouth.
It's hard, right? It is hard.
Possible.
And their sunshine people really, they're going to tell you a lot about everything. Their family, their personal life, their work, what they had for lunch. That's their way of connecting with you. And remember that relationship collateral is very important. Shepherds, they are very tactical and today oriented. So what do you need me to do today? I have a task list of 20 things, and I feel the urge that I have to get all 20 things done today, even if some of them have a due date for Friday. Zoe, do you agree with that? Do you hate it when things are left on your task list undone?
Yeah, but that happens pretty much every year. But yes, it's makes me have anxiety every night.
Yeah. I know you'll find this hard to believe, but we all have tasks that aren't done, and it's okay. Bethany, who I showed you the picture of, I mean, that's why I loved her, because she had this extreme sense of urgency to get everything done. But sometimes I was like, you're going to give yourself a heart attack. Please. I like you too much for that. So just listen, when you go into the conversation, the shepherds, whether they're a friendly shepherd or an unfriendly shepherd, are going to know very specifically what you want them to do. They're going to keep asking you for specifics. Does anybody want to share a story like the person you're thinking about, what you think they are and why? Can I pick on people? Drew, can I pick on you? Is there someone you're having communication friction with?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, thinking about direct reports who are shepherds who would keep asking, in my opinion, asking for more guidance. And I'm more like, take the ball and run. I'll give you the boundaries, but I don't want to define every step because personally, I hate it when someone tries to micromanage me. So I'm kind of just like, take it, you're a professional and go.
Right. That is such a good, so I often have this come up in the workshops we do where, so Drew is a shark, is that we call it a high A, and his D is to the left of the line like Mark's. So more of a casual conceptual person. He's also got a really huge strategic brain. So he thinks inside of his head, but doesn't communicate all of the steps to get to where he got to. Do you agree with that, Drew?
Yeah, my
And so
bride always says, I leave out, I'll say something. She's like, wait a second, where did you start? What are you talking about? And I'm kind of like, it makes sense to me.
yeah, Mark does the same thing where he gets an idea and he's going to go collect all the facts and the data. He's going to synthesize it inside your head, right? When you need more data, you're going to go seek it out. And then you're going to come back to your team with this fully baked thing that you want to do. And they have no idea how you got there and exactly what it looks like. But in your head, right?
Yeah.
So you have shepherds. So we'll talk about this dichotomy between sharks and shepherds. If you want to get more out of your team, be more specific with them. So we're going to talk about how do you use this data for good, right? Not for evil. In Drew's and Mark's case, and I'm sure there's some more of you that fit into this. Darshan, you'll have, let's see. I want you to listen, all of you people who I say your name. Darshan, Seth, even though you're sunshine, you will do this as well. Michael, Bill, Leslie, Drew, Linda, I may have missed one or two. You have some shark in you, and which means you live in the future a little bit, and you have not the shepherd tendency, right? Not the knowledge and perfection and detail and tactical, like every specific tiny little step needs to be known. So here's how you're going to communicate better with your teams. If they're sunshine, which we already said, it's really easy to figure out. When you say hi, they just talk. Share some information about your life with them. If you got a new puppy, tell them that. If you've got plans for the weekend, tell them that. Because once they know that you care about them, that there's some relational equity between you, they will go to the moon for you. Seth, do you agree with that? If they know you care, they will put out so much more energy than if you continue to withhold that relational social equity. For the low Ds and the high Ds, the shepherds, you're not going to even realize what you left out. So when I first went through the Culture Index workshop, my advisor held up my survey and Bethany's survey. And he said, who is this person? And I said, it's my assistant. He said, okay, you never communicate enough detail to her. I said, what do you mean? He said, you're going to say, we're going to a conference next week. Pack your bags. It's going to be amazing. We're going to learn a bunch of stuff. It's in California. We're leaving on Tuesday. We're coming back on Thursday. Drew, does that seem like I gave you enough information? It's in San Francisco. Yeah, Drew's going to figure it out. He said, your assistant is going to say, what's the conference about? How long is it? Is there an agenda? What time are we leaving? What airline are we flying? How many bags should we take? What are you expecting me to learn from this conference? What do you want me to do with that information when we come back from the conference? Who all's going to be there? And on and on and on. And in order for her to do her job well as my assistant at this conference, if I just spent 15 or 20 minutes saying, I know I left out some details. This is how I talk to her. This is how I talk to all my shepherds. I say, I know that I undercommunicate details. I left things out. I need you to ask me 5 follow-up questions for more information. So to Drew's point, I'm kind of putting the monkey on their back, like saying, I need you to think harder about what I left out because I just don't see it. Does that make sense? All right. Let me teach you about communicating with sunshine people. Seth, can I use you as an example? Do I have another sunshine on this call?
Oh, you can use me. I'm about sunshiny as you can get, me or Barb.
Is Barb, are you on this call? Do I see
Oh,
you?
Barb's the most sunshiny person I know.
Let's see. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. And she's more conceptual and she's more patient than you too. So with Barb and with Seth, and you might see this here as part of their peer group, they speak to think. So they are verbal processors, which means the first time that they say something, they don't mean it. Whereas when Drew and Mark say something, they've already thought it through 1,000 times and they're committed to it. They want to do it, unless they get new information. Whereas Seth and Barb, they're processing verbally and they just need that space to do it. So we talk about giving them grace and space. When a sunshine person says they're going to do something or they're thinking about something, you need to hear it 3 times from their mouth before they really mean it. Barb, do you agree with that?
Sure.
Like, I'm thinking through this. I'm just testing it out. I'm trying this out loud to see if it works. I haven't really committed to it yet because I'm still processing it, right? The other thing about sunshine people is that they are experiential people, which is like Bob Iger and Walt Disney. They're really great at creating an experience, not just for their clients, but for their people. So give them the opportunity to do that. Let them be the glue. Let them bring people together. Let them motivate. What do you think about that, Barb?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. This is, sunshine people, their intuition is off the charts. When they walk into a room, Barb, I'll just stick with you. When you walk into a room, what types of things are you noticing?
Body language, just the environment.
And just, do you have to put
Interactions.
any effort into that? It just comes naturally?
I guess so, sure.
Yeah. Seth, what do you think so too?
I'm definitely that way. I mean, I'm always reading people's body language and chatting with them and seeing how they're doing and being sunshiny.
And they're just natural empaths, and they use
Yeah.
that ability to read people to influence and persuade them. So I have a client, Drew, is a profile similar to yours. And he was saying that his administrative assistant, she's a sunshine, and she's like, she's not a shepherd though. So she drops the details on stuff. And I said, well, what are you thinking? Do you think she's the right person for that role? And at first he was like, I think I need someone more shepherd, more making sure things get done. And then over the course of our workshop, a couple hours later, he said, actually, I need her to keep doing what she's doing. Like, she knows every person in the manufacturing facility. They come in to talk to her. They like her. And when they come into the office to talk to her, then they talk to each other. And she actually creates this amazing environment that if we lost her, it would be bad. So one good reason you definitely need your sunshine people. They build culture, they bring people together. And then my high Ds, here's how you talk to here's how you talk to high A's and we already talked about high B's, let them talk. High A's, short, direct, and to the point. If you are having a conflict with them on your team, it's because their goals do not align with your goals. And so the only way you can get past that is by knowing what their goals are. So every time someone comes to me and they show me a profile with their shark and they say, I'm really struggling with this person. I said, do you know where they want to be in 3 years? Do you know how the work that they're doing now helps them get to where they want to go? Once you know that, and you can tie it back. So Sunshines, this is kind of easy for you, right? Because you have that empathy. If you know somebody wants to get somewhere in 3 years, and every time you ask them to do something, you say, remember, you have that dream, that goal, you want to do this. Here's how it's going to help you. Do you agree with that, Drew? Like, know where he wants to go and then tie it back to whatever you're talking about. This is how it helps him. All right. That is pretty much the end of my content. What questions do you have?
There's a couple people in the chat wondering if you can explain the other color dots on the reports.
Sure. All right, A through the top graph, there's 2 graphs on your chart. The top graph is your inherent traits. They've been baked in since about the age of 12 years old. The top 4 are your primary traits. They're measured and scored independently relative to that red arrow. The red arrow, I'm just going to give you kind of the whole overview, but we can definitely jump on a call to talk more about this. But the red arrow is the center of a bell curve. So the further a trait is away from the line, the more pronounced and obvious and apparent and predictable that trait's going to be, the harder it is for a person to flex it. So in Seth's case, his B's pretty far away from the line. It's going to be hard for him to turn it off, right? To not be sunshiny. Now, the closer a trait is to the line, the easier it is. It's more normative to the general population. The easier it is for you to flex that trait. So if you have some shark tendencies, but you're a part of a team right now, and
I
you
can
need
totally
to
turn the shark off. I can totally turn the shark. I'm looking at that. I'm like, I am a shark. I like to think in the future. I can't turn off my bubbliness. Barb knows this. Zoe knows this. I'll run up and give her a hug, and she's like, "Whoa, hi Seth, how's it going?" That kind of thing. But like shark, I can like calm that down.
Yeah,
But sunshine, forget it. I'm bigger than the sun. Sunshine.
I love it. I don't think Darshan's not in here, right? He took it. His A and B are stacked. So sometimes like your traits, so the A is, we say it's autonomy, and we talked about that. That's like, do you need to be in control or not? To the right of the line, you need to be in control. To the left of the line, not so much. And there's a lot more nuances on this. I am giving you one specific application of this data. So happy to have a follow-up call with you if you want to talk more about your results specifically, or to do a team diagnostic where you like look at the people, your direct reports, and see how they're doing. B is social ability. So to the right of the line, needs, wants, and seeks social acceptance. To the left of the line, you're going to be more data, facts, analytics. C is pace, or it's easier to think of this as patience. So to the right of the line means you are patient, methodical, deliberate, intentional. You're able to focus mentally for very long periods of time. Mike Brenner, are you in here? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, there you are. Do you find that to be true? You can focus mentally for extremely long periods of time?
Yes, unless someone is interrupting me, which happens quite often.
So that's another thing we talk about with these dots and how to people strategy, right? My high C's, I always tell people to put their high C's, especially if they're in like conceptual work. Like my husband is a very high C. He's a design engineer, aerospace design engineer. Put him in an office with a closed door. The worst thing you can do for a high C is put them in an open concept, because Seth is going to bop in every 5 seconds and be like, "Hey, Mike, what are you working on? How you doing? What'd you have for lunch? Do you have plans? What are you doing tonight?" Right?
Mike,
I'll
I
kill
drive
him.
you nuts. I would drive
I'll
you
kill him.
absolutely bananas.
We would end up on Dateline.
See, and this is a pretty easy way where we can just like reduce conflict and inefficiencies in our teams. It's just by understanding how do they work. Low C's, Highly impatient, love variety, strong sense of urgency, come across as kind of intense. My low C's, I know you agree with that, Michael. Anybody ever told you you're intense?
I deny it.
You can't prove it.
Yeah, vociferously.
Whereas what's interesting is one of the main differences between Mark's and Drew's personality is the C dot. So Mark has a high C, so he's going to come across as more relaxed and laid back. And Drew's going to come back as more direct and intense and to the point. Have you seen that with them? Yes? I don't know. Drew, do you agree with this, or you think you're just as laid back as Mark?
Yeah, I have some intensity there.
And then the D trait is conformity. So to the right of the line, high conformist, rules, perfection, knowledge, details, accuracy, quality work. To the left of the line, more conceptual, free-spirited, non-conformists, out-of-the-box thinking. And then those are the primary traits. So when we use this data in hiring and people strategy, we first look at the primary pattern, because the idea is like that's saying what your dominant hand is. So if I can put people to work with their dominant hand, then I'm going to get better quality. They're going to do their work faster, and it's going to require less effort and burnout on their part. The EU, L, and I are secondary traits. I mean, we do have some time to go into them. EU is energy units. This is like how fast you're going to burn out. If I ask you to come to work and write with your non-dominant hand, 20 or less, you'll probably quit on the first day. Let me see. Do we have any really low EUs here? Not really low, but John Hadley, are you here?
Well, I'm at 25, so I'm close to 20. And I get that. It's when I ask me to do something that I don't want to do, like, or I'm like my left hand, I'm like, forget it. You're not gonna be able to read it. Like, forget about it. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
that
close. Maybe I'll give you 3 days,
right.
but
Has
I won't be
anybody
at the
ever had
first day.
somebody
But
come
yeah,
to work and quit on the first day or the first week? Show of hands. Nobody has. Just me. Oh.
Fortunately,
Okay,
I
Mark.
have.
Who said that? Who?
That was Wendy. Yeah.
Oh, Wendy.
How did
Yeah,
that-
tell
how
me
did that
about it.
happen?
What happened?
Apparently, the environment and her expectations did not mesh, and we didn't catch it in the interview and screening process.
Yeah. Same thing. I've had it. Here is the thing. I just started by saying the key to leadership is first knowing who you are and embracing it. The danger of culture index is that you, or the survey you took, is that you gave me an inside look into who you are and what motivates you. And people may not always realize that they gave you that look. And sometimes they don't even realize it about themselves. And my job as an advisor is to have that conversation and say, is this true or not true? It's 90% accurate. So 9 out of 10 times we get it right. Sometimes there are little things that are off, but it's like holistically, it's right. So sometimes I've interviewed people and they've said, I'm going through this right now, actually, with a client. They have someone who's very friendly, experiential person like Barbara, and they need someone to be a remote VA doing admin work, like in spreadsheets all day long. And this person is like, he's enthusiastic. He loves the team. He wants to be a part of it. And he said, I want to do this work. I can do it. I know I can. And so the conversation we've been having is he the best person for it? He doesn't realize that it's going to crush his soul until he starts doing it. So Wendy, to your point, people quit day one. They usually have a low EU, and we've usually misaligned them with who they are and the work that they're doing. EU in the middle, like 20 to 60 is the normative range. That just means that you can go for a little bit longer. If I put you in a job where you are not aligned, maybe we're looking at a couple months before you get burnt out, and we have to have some conversations about how to make you happier or where you better fit. EU of 60 and above, you will generally work yourself until you have a heart attack, even if it's not in alignment. They tend to ignore all the signs that their body is giving them that they are burnt out. So we use this data to protect them a little bit. Any questions on EU?
Well, I have an experience I can share. I
Yeah.
was a journalist for 6 years, but I was an on staff police reporter for 7 months, and it crushed my soul. I mean, I loved it, but it also crushed my soul. And I'm realizing now, I'm like, yeah, I'm a 25. I lasted 7 months, and my boss brought me in. He's like, "You have 2 weeks of vacation time. Take it. Get out of here. This is not the right fit for you." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll see you later." That I walked out of the newsroom that day, and I was like, "Oh, I bawled. I haven't cried out of relief that much in my life." It was like I didn't see it, but I felt it deep down.
Who do you think, knowing this now, the shark, the sunshine, and the shepherds, who do you think would have been the right person to do
Oh, a
that?
shark. Just get it
Shark,
done. Just get her
right?
done. Don't feel it. Just, and I'm not trying to, pick on Drew or anyone like that, but this is like future feeling. Like, just get this stuff done and rock and roll. Don't wait for it. Just go. Now, I feel everything.
Mm-hmm. And then, so the other thing I want to say about EUs, depending on where yours is at, here's just another practical tip for you. If you have an EU of 20 or less, it means that mentally you're going to wear down faster. Think of it like a AAA battery, right? Like you have a AAA battery, it's going to start to wear out faster, but it recharges a lot faster. So go for walks, take frequent breaks. And then you'll recharge, you'll come back. 20 to 60, you have more like a C, D battery size, depending on where you're at. So you can grind a little bit longer before you need to recharge, but it's going to take you longer to recharge. So you might be able to make it a whole work day, fully focused and engaged and doing your stuff, but you're going to need the full night to recharge. Or maybe you'll make it a week, and then the next week you're feeling pretty wiped out. 60 and above is usually like a car battery, so you must take your vacations. You can work for a couple months, but take your breaks, disconnect. Does that resonate with anyone? Does anybody see that show up in their life? Georgian?
My wife, she won't quit until it kills her. Like, she will not quit a job. And it
Yeah.
drives me up a wall. I'm like, "It's not right for you. It's not right for you." I'm like, "No, she's like, I got this." I'm like, "No, leave."
Just keep grinding at it, right? Looking at some surveys here. Linda, you've got a pretty high one. 50, you got a 50. Does that resonate with you, that you can grind for long periods of time, but when you recharge, you need to like disconnect for a bit? Yeah. Has this
Absolutely.
showed up in the past year? Has it showed up?
I go, and then I hit like that wall that I need to totally disconnect and recharge.
Mhm. How do you find that you recharge best?
That's always that's always the struggle, because I try to continue to push. So, kind of self things, and well, I got myself a puppy last year. You as a way to try to force required breaks more
Mhm.
frequently.
I would imagine for you, so she's also got a sunshine personality. Fun is important. That is what, if you can plan something fun to do where you just get to disconnect and enjoy life. Sunshines usually feel that's the thing they need. Whereas the opposite of you, the low Bs, are like, I just need to be in a space by myself. That's more the introvert extrovert.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I definitely recharge by connecting with the people in my life, and even if it's just a dinner out, but just that good conversation and connecting, and that always fills my cup.
And then I'll just move into the L and I here. L is for logic. Logic is not intelligence. Logic is when you receive new information, do you process it with your head, with your heart, or with a mixture of both? 0, 1, 2 tends to be more emotionally reactive to new information, right? So when you receive something, you wear your heart on your sleeve. People know it. They know how you feel. 8, 9, and 10 can almost come across as robotic. So I think of Dr. Spock, right? That is illogical. Why? There's no need for emotions at work. And then in the middle, 3 through 7, They have a head, they have a heart, they know when it's appropriate to use both. And the more they move towards that higher end of the scale, the more egregious the situation has to be. This is the story that I tell with Logics. And my poor husband, I've really got to come up with a better one because this is not indicative of his character at all. Okay. But I told you I did real estate investing and flipping houses. And this is how I explain logic to people. Let's say next Friday, I rehabbed a house, I'm selling it, I'm going to make $50,000. And I find out today that my husband had an affair with the buyer. A logic of 1 and 2 would say, I would rather burn that house to the ground than see either one of them benefit from this. I don't know if we have any 1s and 2s. Usually I get some vigorous head nods with this example. And then a logic of 8, 9, and 10 would say, it's $50,000. Like they're 2 separate things. I'm going to make the money and we'll deal with everything else later. Or maybe we won't. And then in the middle is like probably a 3, 4, or 5 will have that initial reaction of I'll burn that house to the ground, and then they'll come around to, okay, but it's $50,000. Does that make sense? Let's see if we've got any good examples here. It's hard for me to look at all of these at once. And then I is for ingenuity. Think of this as raw inventiveness. So creativity shows up 2 places in the data. The first is when the A is above the D. When the A is further to the right than the D, that's more conceptual problem solving in terms of thinking outside the box and what can we do. But raw inventiveness is these people are popcorn poppers of ideas. And this is usually in the 7, 8, 9, 10 range. I have a lot, I think my I is a 5. So I will have some creative, like raw, inventive ideas, but I might see a mouse and think, I'm going to start a business based around mice. Like, what can I do? Oh, I could do an extermination business. I could maybe do like breeding for some labs, like lab rat breeding. I could breed for like snake food, like these are all good businesses. I could go do that business. And that's me being conceptual and creative. Like I see a mouse, I want to do something around that. High eyes, like Walt Disney, see a mouse and think, I'm going to put clothes on that mouse, and then I'm going to put him on a steamboat. I'm going to draw a cartoon, and then I'm going to create a theme park in the middle of a swamp. This will be a huge hit. Does anybody here have a very high I, 7, 8, 9, 10? Can you raise your hand? Drew, do you feel like at any given time that you just have 1,000 ideas coming through your head?
Well, so I do innovation, so yeah, but I feel like I come up with more ideas than a lot of my coworkers.
Okay, so he is perfectly aligned with his role, right? This is inherent trait. He found his way there anyway because he already knew this about himself. I tell high eyes, these are my 2 pieces of tactical advice. If you're a low logic, write the email, don't send the email. Okay? Like just know your emotions are going to come. They're going to flood through you, and that is okay. That is how God made you. That is your gift because it makes you very passionate and loyal. So get it out. Just write that email, but just don't send it. Okay? Wait a day or find a trusted confidant to talk to. High eyes, sometimes all those ideas can be distracting. So I say, get a notebook and just start writing down every idea you have in the notebook. And then maybe once a week, go back through the notebook and circle the 3 most promising. Okay. Is that a good overview of the rest of the dots? All right. I would love to hear, I told you what success looks like is you getting 1 tactical piece of advice that you're going to use today. Is anybody brave enough to share how they're going to use this knowledge today?
I can share that.
Okay.
The one that really hit me between the eyes, only because it's relevant, it's like happening now, was about shepherds, real detail oriented folks, which I'm not naturally. And your word track. I know I left out details. I need you to think hard about this. And I'm basically telling them, acknowledging their need for details, but also expressing my inability to recognize the importance of those details that they need. So I guess it's a bit of empathy, for that type of human. So just dealing with that right now, and that kind of like, boom, I get why they look at me kind of like, oh boy, when like, oh, what's coming now? Like I'm just, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm overwhelming them. I'm starting to frustrate them. And that's what I'm starting to see. And this is super helpful to get that relationship kind of back on track where we're both seeing each other who we are and trying to help each other be better at what we're trying to achieve. That was there was a bunch of other ones, but that one I wrote that one down and highlighted it. So
I'm going to challenge you to even add in the specific of the question. Ask me 5 questions, because that's how their brain works. If you give them a vague, open-ended, ask for more details, it's a struggle.
got it. Thank you.
Yes, I'm excited. One more better leadership moment there. So Michael, you asked a question. You said, when you point to one of us and ask a question, are you framing the question loosely based on your recall of our categorization? Usually once I've had one-on-one conversations with people, I will remember what your dots look like, and I will try to speak to you in relation to that. I'm here, it's a little harder to remember. What did you take away from this, Michael? How are you going to use this today?
I like the simple breakdown, because a lot of these, I mean, and the way you presented it, because it was top down, what's a shark like, what's sunshine like, what shepherd's like, and nobody is purely one or the other. But it reminded me to think about how people are perceiving things and how they use the information we're giving them, so that I'm going to tailor my conversations today by what I know about my colleagues.
Excellent. Georgian, I see that you unmuted. You want to share?
Yes. I didn't get to take the survey, but I will send it to you. I thought it was a great tool. I really liked how you presented it. I thought you did a great with this small group and interacting and sharing it, and just brought up a lot of points of how we interact with others, and how we need to step back and think about it. I've done a lot of tools in my career, but this is a really good, minute, less than an hour, or not even 90 minutes. Like you've given, I think, a nice foundation to walk away from and things to think about.
Excellent. What do you think you are?
I'm probably stacked if it goes next to all the other tools. I tend to be like on Myers-Briggs. I'm on the cusp on everything but extroversion.
Have you ever done DISC?
Yeah.
What is your highest?
I don't remember my DISC.
This is,
it's very similar to DISC in some ways.
Yeah, DISC is, at last I checked, is like 70% accurate, but because it's forced multiple choice. So you guys, this was a free form adjective checklist, so we didn't make you choose anything. But I feel like DISC is a good approximation too. All right, well, I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah.
Becca, I had a question.
Leslie, I see you keep unmuting. I got you next.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask a question, general question. Do you, when you work with teams, do you have, like, you're working with a leader, do you have all of the different team members take the culture index so that that whole group of people can, recognize strengths, weaknesses? How do you approach that to improve the team dynamic and then ultimately the success of that team?
Culture index specifically, we start with a 2-day workshop with the leadership team. So everybody gets in the room together, and it's very personal. It's very tailored to that room and how can we get more effective communication. And before they come into the workshop, they survey the entire company. So and then what we do is we put up on the wall, teams will build the org chart out, And then we start talking about what issues are you having inside of your team? Why do you think that's happening? How can you address that in the future? And then within 90 days, we roll it out to the whole company. We do like a 90-minute call like this, where I just give them a really high level. We go through the motivational. We really focus on communication. Like Mike Brenner, what you said about people interrupting you. There's two, I guess that I hit all of them, but two that I find that like really hit the teams is the high B, low B, so the sunshine and the not, because the sunshine thinks if you don't talk to them, that you don't like them. And the low Bs come to work. So to them, it's very separate places. So that's one big thing that we try to hit. And I say, like, all the sunshines, raise your hand. Okay. You talk too much for the people who don't have their hands up, but they still like you. And then for the high Cs, I have all the high Cs raise their hand and I say, stop interrupting them. Every time you interrupt them, you set them back. Leslie.
Like Mark, I also thought asking the questions is a good thing, but I think that's also useful when you're throwing out an idea and you have a lot of shepherds, because if you're trying to really vet an idea and the shepherds in the room all think you're giving them marching orders. And so saying, this is an idea and I'd like you to think about it and come up with 5 questions that you need answered in order to want to consider it further. Because I used to do this, I'm highly intuitive, and I had a team and I would do this and they would think I was giving them direction. And then some of them would just come up with the 50 reasons the thing could fail, which was the fastest way to tire me out as the leader. So I think there's a lot of application is what I'm saying, not just in motivating people to actually do what you want, but also to think about how they can help you implement something.
Yes. And for you, she's a high B as well. She's a sunshine. So she's going to lead with people. That knowing that, hey, I'm going to say things like I'm socializing this idea. It's not set in stone. Right? Because she's processing it with her team collaboratively. Drew, how are you going to use this today?
Well, I thought, similar to what a couple other people said. So I've done Myers-Briggs and DISC, and there was actually one guy I met who was, brilliant, and he would ask a couple questions and figure out somebody's Myers-Briggs, and he would change his whole conversation. And for me, like, there's so many details, but it's like the 3 buckets, which I'm sure there's a lot more below the surface. But yeah, I think the practical tips and the thinking about, again, somebody who's a high sunshine or a high shepherd, what do they need from me and why are we missing each other? I think this is great.
Excellent. Zoe, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I was going to just say I like thinking about how the different styles complement each other. So you don't necessarily want a company of all sharks or a company of all shepherds or all sunshine. And it was interesting. I think a couple people mentioned they were one thing and their spouse was another thing. So again, I think it's like, if you're the big picture guy, maybe it's good that your wife's the details person. Or if you're the details person, maybe it's good that your wife's the sunshine person, because it sort of, like, as a unit, you then balance each other out. And I think that tied into your example with your direct report, that like she needs the details, yes, but it's good because she's getting the details and you're getting the big picture. So I thought it was interesting. It kind of seems like it bleeds into the personal life as well. And as someone who's pretty analytical, my husband is even more. And as someone who doesn't feel like I'm a super social person, he's even less. So I feel like it's like we need to balance each other out. And I do notice that, like, on teams at work too, that the balance is it's nice to have, even if it might initially have like a barrier to communicating properly. If you can overcome that barrier, you become a more well-rounded team.
Excellent.
One thing that it makes me think of, that was great, Zoe, by the way. One thing it makes me think of in community organizing, there's a tool which some places is called a one-on-one conversation, and you can spend the time listening rather than responding. So you ask questions and you probe. But you can very easily find out what motivates people because they will tell you. If you ask them, they will tell you. I mean, I wouldn't just walk in before everyone's had their coffee and say, okay, so what's important to you? But, you know, in a 5-minute conversation, it's better if you spend more time, but it's really what you're trying to accomplish. People will answer and let you know very quickly what works for them and what they care about.
Yeah, I do agree with that too, because I think at the end of the day, we all want to be seen and valued for who we are. You know, and if we can build a team that respects each other and trusts each other, that you might be different. And this is the whole diversity conversation, right? You're different but necessary. Like you have value. So, well, I appreciate you letting me have 90 minutes on your Wednesday morning. If you have follow-up questions,